Well, some are calling it callous. A gun dealer speaking to a group of students at Virginia Tech, arguing for more guns. But he says the students have the right to protect themselves. Joining us now from Green Bay, Wisconsin, Eric Thompson is the owner of TGS.com Incorporated. His web-based firearms company did sell that pistol to the Virginia Tech massacre shooter and magazines in a holster to the man who killed 5 people at Northern Illinois University. And also joining us in Washington, Paul Hemke of the Brady Campaign to Prevent Gun Violence. Eric and Paul, thank you for joining us on Fox and Friends this morning.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Eric, let me first start with you. I mean, some people at the university thought it was incredibly insensitive, and they were offended that the man who was responsible for selling the firearms to Asung Hai Cho would appear on the campus to speak. How do you respond?
Well, that was the response from the university spokesperson. I was warmly received by many of the students, and I had the opportunity to speak with people that had lost loved ones, and I found it offensive that he didn't even bother to ask me what I was going to speak about. The university should be about the free flow of ideas, and he should have known what I was going to say before he came out with those inflammatory comments.
Yeah, but you know the sensitivities. I mean, you got 32 students murdered, killed by this madman, and your website helped provide the gun.
Well, I wouldn't say that we helped provide the gun. The problem is that it was a legal transaction, and it's the media and groups like the Brady Center that actually provide the media hype regarding guns and take the focus off the individual and place it on an inanimate object.
Hey, Paul, is it media hype?
No, it's what this guy's doing is he's great at media hype. I mean, you can't buy this kind of free advertising, and it shows the challenge on this issue. These are people that make money off of guns, and to market yourself as the favorite gun store of campus killers is really amazing to me. It's you know, if anything, he should be doing like what Walmart's doing now, which is trying to make it harder for dangerous people to get guns. Instead, he's promoting more and more people getting guns. And again, when you're doing it over the internet, there's no face-to-face. He doesn't do the background checks. He doesn't keep the tapes. He's just trying to make a buck.
Eric, shouldn't it be harder, some would argue, as Paul says, that it should be much harder for people to get guns?
Well, Paul's comments are completely disingenuous. It is a face-to-face transaction.
Okay, you know what?
We have to follow every...
We'll stop you right now because we have a commercial coming up. We'll get back to that decision. And should students carry guns? We'll talk about that in a sec. We're back with gun dealer Eric Thompson from Green Bay, Wisconsin, and also with Paul Hemke of the Brady Campaign to Prevent Violence. Eric, as we were talking, I mean, do you feel any responsibility for the murders?
Well, the fact of the matter is that what we were talking about before is that it is a face-to-face transaction. Whether it's an internet transaction or not, it has to go in front of somebody, a licensed, federally licensed gun dealer. The background's checked, the signatures are there, the identification is checked. If there was a failure, and I do agree that we should concentrate on the mental illness factor, but if there's a failure, it's that the federal and state governments didn't communicate with each other.
But do you blame yourself at all, or do you feel you have responsibility in this?
I feel terrible for the parents and everybody that lost loved ones. I spoke to many of them, but honestly, I sold a legal product.
And Paul, you have the argument, of course, that students, they're trying to make, that students should carry guns in classes. Would that just lead to them preventing these type of tragedies, or a Wild West?
That's going to lead to more gun violence. I know college has changed since I've been there, but when you add more guns to these college dorms, frat houses, classrooms where they're easily lost, stolen, people get depressed, people get angry, people drink too much, do drugs. That's not going to make the situation better.
But Paul, I hear that argument, but going from a city where we're dealing with, for instance, Philadelphia, as mayor, the new mayor there, Michael Nutter, came in and acknowledged 80% of all the gun violence in that city is coming from illegal guns. It's not coming from guns where people are going and buying permits, and they're going to say, they're going into Joe's family gun shop and they're saying, hey, I'd like to buy a gun. They're getting these illegally. So is the problem really with the guns that people are buying in stores and they're able to get permits for?
There's a number of problems. Most places you don't need permits. Most places there's a background check, but it's only as good as the information that goes into it. Nationwide, we only send in 10 to 20% of the information of mentally dangerous people. Nationwide, we're missing 25% of the felony records. A lot of dealers don't allow straw purchases, and when you put more guns into a situation, whether it's a home, a city, a college campus, you're going to have more gun violence. And I know I wouldn't feel safer if I were sitting in the restaurant, in the bar, are in the classroom thinking everyone else had a gun, because I know there are people that make mistakes with those guns.
Now, and Eric, you were saying in our pre-interview with you that these are fake statistics, that they play on people's emotions. What's your reaction to some of these statistics that Paul's giving us?
Well, that's very true. A lot of what he says is regarding the Kellerman paper. It's a study based out of King County, Washington, and I think, and that's where people say it's 43 times more likely. But if you actually take a look at those statistics, my 9-year-old daughter could do a better job of interpreting them. The fact is that yes, if you look at the way that Paul does, yes, it is 43 times more likely to have a gun used against a family member. But if there's no gun in the home, you're 99 times more likely to be a victim of a violent crime as well. So that doesn't prove anything. It's just false statistics to drum up emotional reaction and support and donations for the Brady campaign.
Paul, your reaction?
We're not anti-gun. Guns can be used responsibly, but in our society we make it too easy for dangerous people to get guns. We ought to make it harder for people like the Virginia Tech killer and the Northern Illinois shooter to get these guns. And when people like our guest here are hawking these guns, making money off these guns, it makes it tougher for the rest of us. Guns are a serious responsibility.
All right, Paul Hemke of the Brady campaign and Eric Thompson, we thank you both for joining us this morning on Fox and Friends, talking about this very vital issue.